From the Fountainhead to The Day the Earth Stood Still, she showed early promise as an actress. But her body of work was quickly overshadowed by an affair with the married Gary Cooper, which resulted in a pregnancy, an abortion, and a nervous breakdown. She eventually returned to the stage and, after a number of years, returned to Hollywood, now married to children's author Roald Dahl. She revived her film career in the 1960s with starring roles in Breakfast at Tiffany's and HUD with Paul Newman. But tragedy was always close at hand, from the death of one of her children, a serious accident to another, and then a devastating stroke that left her paralyzed and unable to work. After years of physical therapy and rehabilitation, she returned to the big screen in an Oscar-nominated role in The Subject Was Roses. And many of us will always remember her as the original Olivia Walton in the TV movie The Homecoming. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. On this episode of InnerVIEWS, our conversation with Oscar, Tony, and Golden Globe-winning actress Patricia Neal. Have you seen the business change over the years you've been in it?
Well, I really don't understand it now because I've been out of it for a long time. And I wanted to go to 20th Century Fox, which I used to be at. That was the first one I was at. Years and years ago. Everybody's dead that I knew there. I'm about the only living person.
What made you decide, first you were on stage and you were doing theater in New York.
Yes.
And having a very good career at it, what made you desire to go to Hollywood?
Well, I had offers, you know, and I had gone, we'd done 1 year, almost a year in New York, and then I went to the, Summer Theater in, forget where it was, I know where, if you guess it, I'll say you're right. And then I went on the road with another part of the forest, where we didn't last long. So I had to go to Hollywood then, and I went to Warner Brothers, signed with Warner Brothers. And I liked it. Oh, it was very good.
But very different from stage.
Yes, but I acted with our President of the United States.
Ronald Reagan.
Not doctor, but Ronald Reagan. And then I did the Fountainhead with Gary Cooper.
Mm-hmm. Now I heard a story that you were at a house with Ronald Reagan or somewhere with Ronald Reagan, and you were all supposed to write down what your dreams were of what you wanted to be, and that Ronald Reagan wrote down he wanted to be president.
Well, something like that. But we were in England then, and my dear friend, he used to want to take us out and he asked us to write out what we wanted to be. And I'm not sure it was president, but something like that.
Do you remember what you wanted to be?
I forgot.
Do you think you achieved it, though?
Oh, I don't know. It went up and down, up and down.
Did you have a plan for your career? Was there something you set out with a focus in mind, or did it just happen?
No, it just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I decided I was 4 years in Warner Brothers. No, it was 2 years with 3 years with that, and then with 20th Century Fox and with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and with another studio.
Well, there were some troubles in those early days, if I read the story right. Do you ever look back and wish things had been different? Do you look back and ever say, you know, maybe Gary Cooper and me weren't right for each other at that time?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, I love Gary Cooper. But, you know, it just did not happen, and it should not have happened. And then I met Roald Dahl, and I married Roald Dahl.
Yeah. When you left Hollywood and went back to New York, and you'd said, enough with that at that point.
Yes.
What was the motivation behind it? Why did you decide, I just want out of here? I've heard that there was a Hollywood Wives Club that kind of helped you on your way.
Well, I was not being the great success in films that I thought I would be, I hoped I would be, and I just had it. Yeah. So I went back to New York without a job, without anything. lived in a cheap, cheap little hotel, you know, or an apartment building. And that's when I read that Kermit Bloomgarden, who had done another part of the forest, that he was going to do the children's hour. Well, that was a good part for me, and so I called Kermit and I said, Kermit, could I read for this? And he said, yeah, if you want to. So I read magnificently, and he let me choose between the parts, and I chose the wrong one, but I chose it.
Was there ever a point where you thought, I shouldn't have to read for something? You know, that you should know my work?
Oh, no, I didn't feel that.
No?
No.
So you're working along, you meet Roald, and Lillian Hellman introduced the two of you?
Oh, yeah, she had a supper party. It was a fabulous supper party. It was elegant. Everyone was in great, fantastic long dresses, and I had a short dress. I didn't know what I was going to. And so I said, could I go home and change my... And she said, nah, you look all right. So I stayed, and that's when I met Roald Dahl.
What was he like?
When I first looked at him, I thought, oh, he's very handsome. And I would like to meet him. And, well, we sat beside each other at the supper table. He didn't talk to me 1 minute. He talked to Leonard Bernstein, who was sitting across the table from him. And at the end of the supper, I said, I don't ever want to see him again. And then I guess he called me about 2 days later and asked me out. And I said, oh, so sorry, can't go. Thank you for calling. I made the mistake of saying. And then he called me again a couple of days later. Well, I couldn't think of an excuse, so I went, and here we are.
At some point, you go back to Hollywood. You started making Hollywood films again. What made you decide to do that?
Oh, well, I didn't live in Hollywood.
Right.
I lived in hotels. And then when I got the part in the children's hour, then I could move on Park Avenue, which I did. And then when Roald picked me up there. And anyway, we finally decided we would get married.
Yeah.
And then we went to Europe on a honeymoon, and that was good. And then we came back, and then Roald said, oops, you're going to move at once. So he had me move to the West Side, which is more like me. And so we did move to the West New York.
But you'd had your experience in Hollywood. And the reason I go back to this is I think a lot of people, after the experience you had had and left Hollywood, would have said, you know, I'm done with that. But you weren't done. And so you went and you did the stage work, and then film called you back.
Yeah, they called me back. I didn't call them back.
And so what was it that made you think, you know, I will give it another shot?
Well, Marty Ritt. I think I was doing that film or another one. And Marty Ritt, and he called me and he said he'd like me to come to lunch at his house on Sunday. And I said, and he wanted me to do HUD for him. And I said, I would love to do HUD, but I must... You see, my daughter, she had died. My eldest daughter had sadly died of measles. And I could not be away from my family for a long time. So I said, I will start it, but then you must let me go home because there was a lot without me. And Marty said, I'll do that. And he's, in that way, he shot it, and I went home for about 5 weeks in the middle of it, and then went to Hollywood, finished there, and came back, and that was the beginning.
And HUD turned out to be a wonderful success for you.
It was gorgeous. And unfortunately, I was pregnant.
Right.
Once again, pregnant. And I could not go back to, I could not, that's when the Oscars were presented. And
you weren't there because you were pregnant?
No.
You ain't letting that little ruckus we had run you off, are you?
As far as I can get on a bus ticket.
Claiming I'm the first guy that ever stuck his foot in your door? First one ever got rough, huh? Well, I'm sorry. It ain't my style. I don't usually get rough with my women. Generally don't have to.
You're rough on everybody.
So they tell me.
You want to know something funny? It would have happened eventually without the rough house. You look pretty good at that, you sure don't, you know. Sight of that through the kitchen window made me put down my dish towel more than once.
Why don't you speak up sooner? I'll remember you, honey. You're the one that got away.
You know, Paul Newman, he sadly died. I loved him so much. And everybody's dead in that film that I knew. I think, I know that the female writer, she's dead. I don't know about the male. But if he's alive, he's the only person alive.
I have to ask, when a parent loses a child, they say that that is the hardest thing in life to get over. Do you ever get through it? Do you ever put it behind you, or is it always
I never
with you?
forget her.
Yeah.
No, she would be, I guess she would be 52 if she were alive now.
Yeah.
But she died at 7 of measles. And it was just heartbreaking. And then I had Tessa then. I had Theo, I had Tessa. Oh, no, I had Tessa and then Theo, and then Olivia died.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have another one, which I did. I had Ophelia.
Yeah.
And then I was surprised to hear I was pregnant once again.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to get rid of her. So I had her when they presented the Oscars, and I too pregnant to go.
Now, Theo had an accident too.
Oh, yes.
And it was very serious.
Oh, yes. He was hit by a taxi in New York. English nurse was pushing it. She was young, and she didn't have a lot of experience. And the light changed. She pushed the pram. Taxi came, hit Theo, and came across the Madison Avenue to a bus. And, well, it was terrible because he was, I know, I was shopping then at the A&P, and I saw my daily woman looking for me, and she said, I'm sorry to tell you, but your son was hit by a taxi. Well, I dropped everything on the ground, and I ran up and I told Roald about it, and he was at somebody else's apartment, you know, he worked in somebody else's apartment, and he just put his pencil down, and we went downstairs, and we went to the hospital, and the doctor said, he will die. Well, it was just horrible to hear. You know, we just could not believe it. And so I was doing needlework at that point, and I know that I was doing needlework, and Roald said, we had gone in to see Theo. He was in a room with a lot of seriously ill people, and Roald said to the nurse, he said, I don't like what you're giving Theo. It seems to be too much. And she said, no, it's quite all right. And then she, I think she began to suspect herself, and she called the doctor, and I remember Roald was telling me the story, and when we saw the doctor run to Theo, and he made him vomit, and he took it. Oh, it was just terrible. And then we decided we'd move the hospital he was in.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And we moved him to Uptown, to the great hospital. I forget the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people know, very much publicized, shortly after all of this happened, you were pregnant again, and then you had the series of strokes.
Yes.
Which you had just won your Academy Award, career seemed to be going good, you were married, the children, all that.
What has happened to me?
Yeah. When it happens, right after, and you come to again, and you're back with us, do you remember the period of the coma? Do you remember the period of the strokes, or is all of that
I don't remember a lot then. I don't remember a lot. I was an idiot, I would say. And I know that I came to, and Tessa was in the hospital. I was in a special room, I don't know when Tessa came in. And she was horrified at what she saw, and I was, had no hair, and face was that way, and I could not talk, and I said, love, love, love. Oh, it was just so horrible. Yeah. And that's really how I started, saying love, and a couple of other things, but then I can speak perfectly well now.
Yes,
not perfectly, but good.
in that time, do you feel trapped within yourself? What is that? I can't even imagine the feelings.
Horrible, horrible, horrible time. You have no idea how hideous it was, because I could not speak well for myself, and people took advantage of me, and I was suicidal. No, I would never kill myself, but I thought I would, and it was just revolting, it really was. Yeah. But it passed. I mean, how many years ago was that? It was 40-something years ago.
Which is funny, because when you look or you study about your career in your life, that always leads it. It was quite well known at the time. Mm. It made quite an impact. And your recovery made an even bigger impact and changed a lot of lives. Yeah. So now you have this debilitating problem. Mm-hmm. You've been through so much already. Are there points you say, I give up? I'm not going to fight anymore. What was it in your spirit that said, fight, keep working, get back to it?
I don't know, darling. I just am made the way I'm made. And it's a stubborn woman. I am. I mean, I just don't want to lose. Yeah. I really mean, I've lost a lot, but I don't want to lose. I mean, I hate to be defeated, but so I'll fight all the way.
Now, I have read two different versions of your recovery. One in which your husband is very helpful, the two of you work very strong together to get you back, and others where he comes across as abusive and very rough on you. Where does the truth lie?
He was very good when I was ill, and he really but I guess in the end, I mean, he got so bored with me. I was an idiot, and he just, and he was, but he was a good man till the end, and then, well, he wanted a divorce, which I gave it to him.
Yeah. Now, when you came back to films after your stroke, you came back, next thing you know, another Academy Award nomination.
Yes, that was good, wasn't it?
Was that sweeter than your earlier award and win, simply because all you had been through?
Well, I really haven't. In fact, I forgot it, that I was up for one. And that was the subject was roses, wasn't it? And I love doing that film. And Jack Albertson, I love Jack Albertson. He won, which was very good for me. Yeah. That year, Barbara Streisand and Katharine Hepburn, they both won it.
So if you're going to lose, it's okay to lose to those two.
Well, it's the only year two women ever won.
Yeah, yeah. Now, a couple of years after that, something that so many of us remember you for is The Homecoming, the Waltons' Christmas movie, the original before the series, and you were Olivia Walton.
Oh, yes. I love being Olivia. And I didn't know it was going to go on, but it did. And I love the woman who took my part. She's a very good woman.
My family didn't approve of me marrying your daddy. Did you all know that?
What'd they have against Daddy?
Well, my family were big Baptists, and your daddy, in those days, wasn't exactly religious.
He was religious. He just wasn't a churchgoer.
Anyway, when my family said we couldn't get married, your daddy and I sneaked off one night and went to see the Baptist preacher. John said, we're here to be married. And Preacher Hicks said, does your mama know about this? And I said, no, sir. And he said, well, then I can't marry you. Oh, I was scared to death, ready to run right straight home. But your daddy spoke up and said, Mr. Hicks, you are not the only blankety blank preacher in the world. We'll get us another preacher.
When the Walton movie is finished, then they decide to make the series, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
None of the adults except Ellen Corbett continued on. The kids all stayed, but it was a whole new set. I can't find out why. Why did you opt not to? Was the offer not
Oh,
made?
I wasn't even asked about it, but I wouldn't have done it anyway because
you would
I
have done
lived in
series.
England, and it would be impossible for me to do it.
Yeah.
And let's see, who else was? Well, I think
Edgar Bergen
my
was in
husband.
it.
Yeah, he was out, and
Yeah.
and my husband was out, and I was out. Because the children were the same,
Yeah. It's amazing to be
and the
part
mother, she was the same.
and to be part of a classic, you know, that
Yeah.
comes back year in, year out, and your films that come back. I have to ask you about some of the people you've worked with. And I'm curious about John Wayne, because once again, I've heard you were not a huge fan of his, and then I've heard that you were.
No, I really didn't like him the first film I worked with him, because he was a boss. He was bossing himself around, and I thought, what a horrible man he was. But then when I worked with him many years later in Honolulu, he was beautiful to me, you know. He was married then, happily married.
Yeah.
Got a divorce in the end, but he was, and I adored him. He was very good.
Yeah. During the time you were married to your husband, he actually wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes, isn't that good?
Do you remember the period of that coming together, that story?
He wrote James and the Giant Peach first, which I think is the best one. I like James and the Giant Peach. And then Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was very good too. And then a lot after that, you know.
When books like those were written, did you know pretty quickly these were classics, that these were books that were going to last, or no?
Well, I suspected it, and I'm very happy they are.
Now, your career continues even up till today. You have not stopped working. What's the thrill you get?
Get me a job. Get me.
You want another job?
I'd like to have I love to do films.
Yeah. What is
it
the
wouldn't
thrill for you?
Be a tiny part now, but that's all right.
But what is the thrill going onto the set? What
I just like acting.
do you?
That's my fatal, what harm? I don't know what I'm doing. I just like acting.
When you were a child and all of this started in you, was this what you wanted to do?
Mm-hmm.
How did you know?
Well, I tell you what happened was I saw a woman give monologues in church. That's what I wanted to do, was give monologues, and I told my mother, and my daddy. He said, "Oh," and he said, "My boss's daughter. She's and she teaches drama to children." And so I started studying with her. She's still alive. She's a gorgeous woman. I don't think she talks now, but she's very good. And she's in Knoxville, Tennessee. And of course, I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee.
And you're still working. You have a new film, Flying By, that's out now.
Yes, it's a very good one, I think.
Did you enjoy that process?
Oh, yes, I love doing it. I did it very quickly, you know. I think it was about 3 days I was there, and I think it was the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And I hear it turned out well, but I haven't seen it, so I will now see it. Fear of the unknown. It can paralyze you if you let it.
I won't. I just wish that, maybe Dad could try to understand Mom's side.
Oh, I know, dear. I know. Things will work out for the best for them. You love them both. And they love you.
It's gonna be really freaky watching Dad play.
It'll be for him, too.
Give him a kiss for me.
And I want to take you another way before we run out of time, too. You also have your rehabilitation center.
Oh, yes.
And that's very important work to you.
Oh, it's a very good one. It's called the Patricia Neal Rehabilitation Center, and it's in Knoxville, Tennessee. And it's a very good one, and I like it so much.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that will watch this show, and they'll probably be having difficult periods in their life.
Yeah.
What do you say to them? How do you, because you're one person who has definitely survived. You are a survivor. Tips, advice to people facing hard times?
You just can't give up. I would never give up, but I desperately wanted to at times. But, you know, I mean, it's just a hard thing you have to cope with. It's just the most difficult thing in the world, to live again.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
Oh, my God, it's awful.
Well, I just think that it's wonderful that we've had an opportunity to sit down with you, to talk with you. Thank you so much for talking with us.
I thank you so much for asking me to.
Patricia Neal.
Thank you.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of InnerVIEWS, please visit HoustonPBS.org.